Hi guys, welcome back. Like gaming laptops and desktops, gaming phones are now becoming popular, and hence one of the popular offerings, which is the ROG series from Asus, has launched their third generation ROG phone, which is the ROG Phone 3. It's been almost a month since the phone has been launched, and in India, Asus is offering a somewhat high-spec version of the phone as of now. But soon there will be a much more top-end version, and the best part about the ROG Phone 3 is that the pricing in India is very competitive. And this is the pricing, and after checking this phone is surely going to attract not only gamers but even normal users. And the reason I say that is because just take a look at the spec sheet. This is the best specification in any phone right now. Processor is the Snapdragon 865 Plus, and that is great number for the RAM and storage, and also the camera spec is again hitting that big number in paper, and same is with the battery capacity, and also the display specs seem to be very attractive, especially the 144Hz refresh rate. So these all look very convincing, but does these reflect great in real world usage? Well, this video is for that. And let's start things with the display. As I said before, this is a pretty big display measuring 6.59 inches in size, and the resolution is Full HD+, but here the highlight is that the refresh rate is 144Hz, and the best part is that you can pick any between 60, 90, 120, 144, or even an auto setting for the refresh rate. And to be frank, this refresh rate is what makes this display a good one, because based on the panel's quality, it's just fine. Now this display is sharp with punchy colors since it's an AMOLED panel, but the thing that I'm not a fan of is that the whole display is actually leaning towards a cool tone, and it's evident throughout the usage. About the viewing angles, it's good, and same is the case with the max brightness the display can achieve, but about the minimum brightness, it doesn't get very low, and hence I'll rate that also fine, and all of this together made me rate the whole display experience as a good one for the price. And here this fast-paced refresh rate screen is really good because it makes the whole experience feel much more fluid, and here with this ROG Phone 3, every interaction with this phone should be very fast because the processor is the all-new Snapdragon 865 Plus, which is clocked at 3.1 GHz, and here the speed thing is evident while playing high-intense games. And that makes this phone a great one in this segment. Game loading time is fast and the gameplay experience is just perfect. Everything is butter smooth with really no hiccups or lags or even frame drops, and hence I totally love the gaming experience in this phone. And in this phone you also get touch sensitive game trigger buttons, which is usually seen as a physical button in game controllers, and yet these triggers, they're not bad. They do work well and they can be set in games like Call of Duty with the help of Game Genie, and overall the experience with the air trigger is good with not so bad vibration feedback. So the core thing for what this phone is designed for, which is gaming, is actually great with this phone, and that's the case while loading apps or sending messages or browsing through Instagram, etc. But that doesn't mean the whole user experience is perfect. And the problem is not hardware related, but it's Asus's software. Well, the Android version is Android 10, and Asus's skin is not a heavy bloatware loaded one, but instead it looks like stock Android if you choose the classic theme, but even then there are occasional jitter that happens while browsing through settings menu or even home screen. Now it's not a big issue that happens regularly, but instead it's just something that is noticeable at times. But given the fact that this phone is a fully loaded one in terms of specs, that's not what I expected, and I hope Asus does fix it with software updates. And by the way, there are gaming themes available if you are into that. Then about the RAM, well, the variant I tested is the 8GB RAM variant, and it works great with 8 to 10 apps loaded in memory. And about the storage, well, what you get with this variant is 128GB storage with no expansion option, and that for me is more than enough. But if you are a person who downloads a lot of apps and games, well, then you might need to go for the next variant. And here, while we check the display, you might have noticed the bezels on the top and bottom, which are thicker than most of the usual phones available now. And that's because this phone has front-firing speakers. And this speaker setup is extremely loud for a phone. And here being loud is good, but at 100% volume, there was a slight bit of shrillness which is not present at 95% or below, and actually at that range, the audio experience is really enjoyable. And also one thing I noticed is that the volume does drastically increase after 80%. So till now, things are good because here the display, performance and audio, they all work well together to provide a great gaming experience and also a really good media experience too. But what if you're not a gamer and you're looking to buy this phone like a regular flagship phone? Well, then you might be very much interested in the cameras available, and hence let's check that. And firstly, for the camera spec, well, here on the rear of the phone, there are 3 cameras in which the main sensor is a 64 megapixel wide angle camera, then there is a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and the last one is a 5 megapixel macro camera. And here this main sensor is not a very good one, but it does its job even though the core outcome is with not so good dynamic range, and also at times there is overexposure. The ultra wide angle camera does work like most of the ultra wide angle cameras by providing good shots under good lighting, but when the lighting gets dull, the only sensor that's doing a decent job is the main sensor. And about the macro camera, again when there is good lighting, the shots are usable. So overall these cameras are not very exciting with photos, but with videos, you have the option to record in 8K, which I wouldn't recommend because the shots are not at all stable. But if you go for the 4K video recording, It's actually good with even good sharpness and also quick focusing and even great stabilization. And overall, I do prefer the video recording with the main camera over the photos it captured. And about the front camera, it's a 24 megapixel camera, which to be frank is not good. The shots look very much processed because of the oversaturation. So overall, the camera system of the ROG Phone 3 is its biggest weakness. And actually that was expected because this phone is not concentrating with the camera experience, but instead it's all about performance and endurance, and that can be seen with the massive 6000 mAh battery used here. Even with the max display settings turned on, I could easily get in the 7 to 8 hour screen on time range, which is excellent. And with this phone, if you're an average user, you can easily get 2 days of battery life. And about charging this huge battery with the included 30-watt charger, it can be topped up from 0% to 100% under 2 hours. So that's all great, but here's some things you normally get with the flagship phones are missing. And in that, since we are talking about charging, well, wireless charging is not available, which actually is not an issue for me. But the next thing is an issue, which is there is no form of IP rating. And that is something which I was expecting because of all the vents and no rubber gasket in the SIM tray, which by the way takes only 2 nano SIMs. And the next thing which comes under the missing thing, which is a very disappointment, is that there is no headphone jack. Now if it's a regular flagship phone, it's expected, but this is a gaming phone, and that's when a headphone jack is much needed because no matter which Bluetooth or wireless headphone you're using, there can be latency issues. So yeah, that's a tough omission by Asus. But one thing to note is that the main charging port is located to the side, which is a neat move, and also hidden under this flap is a cooling fan accessory connection port which has a USB-C section. So technically what that means is that you can at the same time connect 2 USB-C cables, and since Asus does offer a USB-C to headphone jack dongle in box, well, you can make use of it for connecting a wired headphone. And also in India, the cooling fan accessory is not available in box, but you get a sleek looking plastic case in box. By now you might have noticed one thing here with the design of the phone, which is this back section is a core gaming themed one. And my favorite part in it is the RGB lit logo, which can be controlled to any light setting you want. And yeah, this does turn on when the X mode is activated. So that's a neat touch. And also there is a Republic of Gamers branding on the back section, and even these vents and patterns, they all match up well. Now this vent is actually part of the cooling system of the phone, which is needed because this phone does get a bit warm while playing intense games for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. And actually this portion does a good job in dissipating that heat. And by the way, this back glass is Gorilla Glass 3, and one thing to keep an eye on about this back portion is that it's very slippery. It's smooth, and not only does it feel slippery in hand, but even in a smooth surface, it does slide easily. And actually this phone is a pretty huge phone with heft which is evenly distributed, and about the build quality, it's solid as a rock. There is no bend or flex or any gap in any portion, and also the frame, which is aluminum, gives a solid feel. And by the way, the display glass is not a curved one, which is always welcome, and this glass is Gorilla Glass 6. Till now there isn't any visible scratches on the front glass, and that's the same thing with the raised camera module on the back of the phone. And about this earpiece, it's a good one for calls, and about the Bluetooth version, it's 5.1 and the Wi-Fi version is the latest, and also this phone does have support for 5G. So these kinds of things are well covered in the ROG Phone 3. And lastly about the unlocking method, well, you get an in-display fingerprint scanner which works fast and accurately, and hence I don't have much complaints about it too. So after checking everything about this phone, what I feel is that this is a true example of the right type of advertisement. This phone falls into the gaming phone segment, and it does offer stuff basically just for that. And hence, even though this pricing might seem compelling for the regular buyer who is in search of a flagship phone, well, for them there are plenty of other great offerings, in which the closest one to this in terms of pricing is the OnePlus 8 Pro. And this phone, which is the ROG Phone 3, is what I'll just recommend for users who are very much into gaming. For them, this is a perfect option because all the features offered here does contribute to a great gaming experience, and gamers will surely enjoy it. But other than that, even for users who are like casual gamers, for them, like I said before, they surely have other offerings to match up before making a final decision. That's all for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, a like is much appreciated, and a sub would be great. See you again in the next one. Till then, bye.